Hello students, welcome back. We are going to start with our daily current affairs for the 20th February 2021. All right, and we are basically bringing for you the day-to-day current affairs related classes. So you can subscribe our channel on the YouTube for your day-to-day preparation for your current affairs. Those students who are preparing for the civil services examination as well as other government competitive examination, they can basically refer our channel on the YouTube, and you will get the daily based the current affairs on the YouTube. All right, for that you should also read the Hindu newspaper. That is the most important, the newspaper that you must refer for those students who are preparing for the civil services examination. Other than the Hindu, you can also refer Indian Express. Okay, both of these newspapers are equally good. You can refer both of these newspapers for your enhanced preparation. All right, so let's begin with the lecture. Okay, so first news is basically the Perseverance rover. Okay, so that is basically the NASA's or National Aeronautics Space Administration. So that is a space agency of United States of America. The Perseverance rover is basically a Mars mission which have been sent by the United States of America, preferably the NASA, which is a space agency of the USA, which has sent the Mars rover on the Mars surface, right, to find out if any possibility regarding the life can be existed in the Mars, or also the possibility of sending the future human mission on the surface of the Mars. And there was also a crater called Z0 crater on the surface of the Mars. The NASA scientists basically believe that the Z0 crater was previously filled with the water, right? So obviously when the water was there, there may be some civilization. So to find out the signs of ancient life which are there or which were there on the surface of the Mars. Okay, the mission was sent, right, as a Perseverance mission. It is basically a combined system which is basically having the descent, then entry, and then finally the landing platform where you have the rover will basically carry out all sort of a information, or will collect all sort of information related to the life form on the surface of Mars. Okay, so here the shadow of the NASA's Perseverance rover that I'll show you in my next slide have been first time clicked on the surface of Mars. Okay, the rover have already been landed on the surface of the Mars. Okay, and here the NASA is set to become the first space agency to fly a drone on the surface of or on the atmosphere of the basically the Mars. So Mars is basically many people basically or many countries basically try to get onto the surface of the Mars. The one such country is basically you know the China is also planning to land its own mission on the surface of Mars, on the surface of the Mars. Now regarding this mission, the mission name is Mars 2020, and it's also named as the rover name as Perseverance rover. Okay, the main job of this mission is to basically find out if there is any sign of ancient life, right, on the surface of the Mars, as well as the rover will also collect some samples of the rocks and regoliths. Regolith is nothing but the specimen or the broken rock fragments, right, or some sort of the particles from the soil which may be collected on the surface of the Mars, and that will be ultimately brought back to the surface or to the surface of the Earth. That is basically the main idea behind sending off the Perseverance rover. All right. Now, this launch for this whole the Perseverance rover was done on the July 30, 2020, and it landed basically on 18th February 2021 on the surface of the Mars. The landing site where the Perseverance rover was landed was called Z0 crater, which was the NASA scientists believe that basically it is basically have some sign of the water availability in the crater, all right. This is basically the picture have been taken by the rover, right? So you see it is a first shot which have been taken by the rover. So it is basically showing the shadow of NASA's Perseverance rover, okay, which is basically shown in this picture. And you can see the surface of the Mars also, which is very uneven, right? and which is basically shown some pieces of the land over there, right? And with that, the NASA is set to become the first space agency, right, to fly the drone on the atmosphere of the other planet, right? So the NASA have become the first agency or the first country which have, you know, which have flown such drone on the surface of other other planet. All right. So this is what you must understand with that respect. All right. Next, the Anastasia. What is that Anastasia? It is basically, a cargo ship. It is basically a cargo ship. So it is basically named as Anastasia. Now, why this cargo ship is in the news? The cargo ship is in the news because the cargo ship have been, stranded basically, right? Basically in the waters of China. So here you can understand the cargo ship which is known as Anastasia, which was basically stranded in the waters of Chinese, right? Waters of China in around 15 months back when the pandemic called Corona was started. So here the Indian origin or the person belongs to the India called Anand Fernandez have been returned to the Mumbai after 15 months. After 15 months when he was stranded on the waters of the China. Now what happens is because of the China's over regulation and because of the corona related restriction, the all sailors which was there on the cargo ship called Anastasia was stranded and was stuck in the waters of China, right, due to the coronavirus pandemic. Now the Fernandez basically, he was basically the Indian origin person, right? He was also got stuck for 15 months. Now what happens is the first time the Anastasia, which was the cargo ship which was sent or sailed to the Chinese water, got stuck in the November 2019 itself when the pandemic was started in the China, right? And the China basically put a blanket ban on the traveling, issues related to all sort of transportation, right, including the shipping lanes also. Now what happens is there were many ships which were basically goes and got stranded basically on the waters of China. Okay, this ship basically traveled to the USA, Netherlands, South Africa, India, China, and Australia. Ultimately, got stuck in the China. Now, what happens is these sailors who were stuck in the waters of the China, they somehow managed to go off of the waters of the China after unloading the Australian coal, which were they were supposed to unload on the basically on the harbor of China. So what happens is the China basically allowed these people to go to the Japan, right? And from the Japan, they took basically, to the Dubai, and from the Dubai, they rerouted to the India. So the crew, which was basically, on the cargo ship of Anastasia, that were faced basically a lot of problems because of the Chinese over regulations, because the China has the communist regime, which were generally famous for the over regulating, right, the affairs which is related to the public, and because of the coronavirus restrictions also that put these sailors in the risk. Okay, so it is basically a cargo ship, you can see that is Anastasia, which is basically a cargo ship that try to unload that coal which was brought from the Australia to the Chinese waters. Okay, next, the Shinyu village. The Shinyu village is in the news because of electrification of this village. Okay, now it is basically located in Nagaland state. The Nagaland is basically a northeastern state, right? The Shinyu village is located in the Moon district, a Moon district of Nagaland state in the northeastern part of India. In the northeastern part of India. So what is happening is the first time the state government with the collaboration of the Global Himalayan Expedition, right, have completed the solar panel project. The solar panel project, right, in the Moon district of the Nagaland, right, specifically the Shinyu village of the Moon district in the Nagaland, state. So the village first time got the electricity. You can consider after 70 years also. There were many villages, or there are many villages in our country where they do not have the electricity connection. The prime example is this village which does not have the electricity. Recently this village have got electricity. Okay, now here a total 60 households were there or are there on the Shinyu village, right, including the churches and the community, which got recently got electricity because of the solar panels, right, or solar driven power panels. Okay, now the entire cost related to this project was 23 lakh, and which was born through the CSR funding, right, and which is executed by the Global Himalayan Expedition, which is basically, a philanthropic, agency which is working towards, you know providing this clean energy accessibility, especially to those areas which are remote in the location, or which are remotely found, like for example they may be found in the difficult terrains, like in the desert area, in the hilly areas, like in the very difficult terrain where the normal, the lanes for the electricity is not found. So on these areas, basically, these the electricity which is basically received by these villages are of greater importance. The Global Himalayan Expedition is one such agency which is basically contributing for such development of providing the comparatively cleaner energy access to those difficult and the remote communities. And the Global Himalayan Expedition also won the United Nations Global Climate Action Award for their, outstanding performance in this field. All right. Now, the village called Shinyu, which is basically located in the Mon district of the Nagaland, was set up in 1977. Right? It was recognized by the state government itself in 2002. Right? What happens is it was virtually, not connected, or right, with the power or with the electricity. So it was remains cut off. It was remains cut off from the Nagaland, right, because of the political regions. Because of the political regions, now the availability of the power and the reach of the power, especially in those far-flung areas, the cutted areas, is of greater importance for the development of those people who resides in this Shinyu village, right? And the power department also tried to, bring the electricity in this village in 2013-14, but it was basically, brought down because of the logistic problems, and it was ultimately in 2021 the electricity have been brought due to the support of the Global Himalayan Expedition, which is basically bringing such type of clean energy to those far-flung areas. All right. And you can see the person basically, bringing the solar panels on the rooftop, right, on the roofs of the houses, where the solar power driven energy will be produced, right, and that energy will be used for the electricity, or for, electrifying the village of the Shinyu in the Mon district of the Nagaland state in the northeastern part of India. All right. Next, the railway projects in the West Bengal region. Now you must understand that the state assembly elections is due in the West Bengal, and the Mamata Banerjee, who is basically the ruling chief minister of the West Bengal, basically belongs to the Trinamool Congress, right? Trinamool Congress. Now, the Mamata Banerjee-led Trinamool Congress is ruling the West Bengal government second time, right? Here, now there is continuous fight between the BJP, right, as well as the Trinamool Congress, the Mamata Banerjee-led Trinamool Congress. And Mamata Banerjee is basically, facing some sort of a prospect of the defeat in the West Bengal region. And the BJP is not a big party or is not a big stakeholder, but still the BJP is pushing its election agenda in the state of the West Bengal. And recently, the political movement has also gone up on the soils of the West Bengal due to, or in the backdrop of this legislative assembly elections. Specifically, some of the union ministers, for example, Amit Shah, that is our honorable home minister, Piyush Goyal, that is honorable, the railway minister, even Prime Minister Narendra Modi have gone to the West Bengal for various developmental projects on the backdrop of, the legislative assembly elections in the West Bengal, which is due this year, and that will be, having the greater political significance for both the parties, for both Trinamool Congress as well as for the BJP. So here, the Union Railway Minister, right, is going to be dedicated, right, to the nation, the various developmental railway infrastructural projects in the West Bengal, right? So what he has dedicated to the nation regarding the various developmental projects related to the railways. So here he inaugurated the second footover bridge. The footover bridge means you might have seen on the railway stations where you cross your, platforms. That is called footover bridge. You would use that bridge by your, with the help of your foot. So that is called footover bridge. Okay, which is basically located at the Satrangi, the station. Then freight terminal was also inaugurated, which is also located on the Sankrel phase 1 project. Then Vivekananda Meditation Center, which is also located at the Howrah, which was also inaugurated, right? And also dedicated to the nation, executive long, right, which will be catering to the needs of especially the passengers who basically during the journey, as well as the second escalators would be dedicated to the nation at the Sialda station of the West Bengal, and the two lifts is at the Sialda station was also dedicated to the nation. So these all the development projects have been flagged off, have been dedicated to the nation by the Honorable Railway Minister, Mr. Piyush Goyal. Okay. Now, this Satrangi, railway station is one of the busiest railway station over Howrah Kharagpur section. It is the busiest railway station, and this Satrangi railway station basically developed on the modern lines. That means it has the modern amenities, like you have seen the footover bridge, right? Availability of the footover bridge, then certain set of the executive long and other advanced facilities which are facilitating the passengers on this station. Okay. Then the Sankrail freight terminal phase 1 have been developed, okay, which have been modified to enhance the freight rack handling. The freight is something which is to be understood in the form of the goods, because the freight trains are basically carry the goods right from one place to the another place. So this Sankrail freight terminal will basically enhance the capacity of a particular terminal, right, which will basically cater to the needs of the diverse sections of the West Bengal. Then this freight terminal will also serve 40 square kilometer industrial belt. Now you must understand it is a hinterland, right, all along this Sankrail freight terminal, which will be a hinterland, which will be having the area of around 40 square kilometers, right. This freight terminal will basically cater the needs of this hinterlands, specifically in the Kolkata and the West Bengal region, in Kolkata and the Howrah region of the West Bengal. Okay, the executive long, which are basically dedicated to the nation at the Sialda station, would be the another important aspect of the infrastructure project, which was inaugurated by the railway minister. Okay, and also in order to augment the security of the passengers, right, as well as the railway property, integrated security system was also commissioned. This integrated security system would have the advanced features related to the security and related to the safety of the railway projects or railway property, right, in the premises of the railways, right. And it has been commissioned at the Vardhaman station of the West Bengal. All right. So these are some of the projects or some of the railway infrastructural projects which have been dedicated to the nation by the Honorable Railway Minister, Honorable Union Railway Minister of India. Okay. Next, the Go Electric campaign. The Go Electric campaign, because you must understand in the backdrop of, or right, in the context of the climatic change, right, because the diesel and the petrol vehicles are plying on the roads and they are basically polluting the environment because of the exhaust of some of the greenhouse gases, for example carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide and other gases, right. These greenhouse gases are the main reason for raising up the temperature of the earth, right. For example, IPCC, Intergovernmental Panel of Climate Change, is basically apprehending that by the end of this 21st century, right, our temperature might rise, or the earth temperature might rise, right, above 2 degrees Celsius, or it will rise to the mean, from the mean to 2 degrees Celsius above. So if that happens, almost 75% of the glaciers would be melting, and that may cause the adverse effect on the environment also, right. Drastic change in the environment, the drastic change in the water level in the water bodies, as well as there may be drastic change in the basically the floral composition, faunal composition, and also there will be huge ecological disturbances also, right. To bring that into control, right, as well as the India has also committed to reduce the greenhouse gas as well as the carbon footprint by increasing the share of the cleaner fuels, as well as some of the non-conventional sources of energy, like the electric vehicles, solar panels, right, the wind energy, right, all such at the advanced avenues or the non-conventional source of the energy would definitely bring down, right, the the amount of the greenhouse gases which is basically emitted from the transportation sector as well as from other industrial sector. So in that background, a Go Electric campaign was launched by the government of India. Okay, so here the Union Minister for the Road Transport and the Highways have started, which is basically the Nitin Gadkari. The Nitin Gadkari is basically our honorable Union Minister for the Road Transport and the Highways. The Nitin Gadkari has launched this campaign, which is known as Go Electric campaign. It is just a campaign, right? It was related to increasing the awareness or to increase the mass awareness related to the benefits of the e-mobility. E-mobility means you will have basically, right, the electric mobility vehicles, like you have electric scooters, you have the electric cars, you have the electric buses, right, which are basically run on the electricity rather than running on the petrol and the diesels, right? So you must have some of the EV charging infrastructure also. For example, in the yesterday's news, there was a news that, right, the scientists have found that within 6 minutes 100% of the battery have been filled, right, by 2025. So the scientists believe that by 2025, right, there may be possibility that in just 5 to 6 minutes the battery of the car can be filled, and that car can run up to 160 kilometers. So that is the new invention, or that is the new hope which basically brought this e-mobility into the forefront, right, basically in on throughout the world, right? So this Go Electric campaign is an important initiative started by the government of India to reduce the footprint of carbon. Second, to help in reduction of the import of dependence of our country, because our country is heavily dependent on the crude oil, right? Almost 83% of the crude oil is imported by the India. So out of 100% which is basically used, right, as a crude oil, almost 83% is basically imported by the India, and that required a huge amount of the foreign exchange to pay for that import, right? Isn't it? We have to pay for that. And in order to reduce the dependence on such crude oil, right, we have to switch over to something alternative which may be related to the electric vehicles also, right? That would be important step towards the cleaner and the greener future in our country. Okay, this campaign is basically aimed at creating the awareness at the pan India level. Okay, so obviously with that campaign the people will be more aware about the benefits of the electric vehicles, and which is expected to boost the confidence in the electric mobility apparatus. All right, now to implement this Go Electric campaign at the national and the state level, okay, the Bureau of Energy Efficiency would extend the technical support to the certain state designers agency. These state designed agency would be providing, right, the information enhancement or spreading the information awareness related to the benefits of the e-mobility vehicles. Okay, so the Bureau of Energy Efficiency would provide the technical know-how related to such electric vehicles and electric mobility apparatus, and that will be provided to the state designed agencies, and that will be ultimately would providing that information to the general public. So that will ensure that the uniformity of the information is provided to every section of the society through this Go Electric campaign, which was started by the government of India. So it is a banner, you can say, the launch of Go Electric campaign, which was started by the honorable Nitin Gadkari, who is basically our union, the the union minister for the road transport and the highways. All right, in presence of Sri R.K. Singh, he is also the union minister. Okay, next, the Sauryanjali program. What is this Sauryanjali program? Okay, the Sauryanjali program is basically to commemorate or to celebrate the birth anniversary of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. Okay, so here, because it is again in the backdrop of the elections which are due in the West Bengal this year. Okay, the political activities have been goes up in the West Bengal region, because every political party try to get as maximum as, right, its benefit out of such election related campaign. right? So BJP government will also try to give as much as it can to the people of West Bengal in order to garner the maximum amount of votes, right? So in that backdrop, Suryanjali program is going to be organized, okay, in the West Bengal to commemorate or to celebrate the birth anniversary of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. Okay, so this year 125th birth anniversary of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose will be celebrated, right, as the Sauryanjali program. Now, what will happen in that Sauryanjali program? Obviously, the whenever the home minister will go there, the program will be program will be constituted that will celebrate the birth anniversary. Apart from that, there will be a cycle rally also on the West Bengal soil. So the Union Home Minister would flag off the cycle rally in the West Bengal region. Okay, and the three teams have been constituted, right, specifically for this cycle rally. The first team is known as Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose team. The second team is known as the Ras Bihari Bose, and the third team is known as Khudiram Bose. All three are revolutionary which were involved, right, while the India was fighting for its independence. So all were basically the freedom fighters and belongs to the West Bengal, right? To celebrate the contribution which was given by such revolutionaries, right? The government of India has decided to go ahead with such teams. Okay, so three teams will be participating in the rally, which is also cycle rally, right? This rally would create the awareness, especially in the different parts of the West Bengal, right, related to the sacrifice which was made by the freedom fighters, which belongs to the West Bengal region, So let's understand about the Ras Bihari Bose. So as I told you, the Ras Bihari Bose was basically an Indian revolutionary leader. He was the Indian revolutionary leader, right? He fought against the British, right, authoritarian regime, right? So he fought, and he was basically belongs to the West Bengal. So he was born in the West Bengal, and the Ras Bihari Bose was involved also in the attempt to assassinate the Lord Hardinge, right? To assassinate Lord Hardinge on the 23rd of December 1912 in Delhi. Okay, and in his unsuccessful attempt, right, what happens is the police came heavily on him, and he was basically forced to hide, right, in the areas of nearby Delhi region, and he was also the key organizers of the Gadar mutiny, right, and later he was also involved in the Indian National Army also. Okay, and Ras Bihari Bose subsequently handed over the reign of the Indian National Army to the Subhash Chandra Bose, and later the Subhash Chandra Bose have taken the reign of Indian National Army and put them forward. Okay, so the Sauryanjali program will be inaugurated by Honorable Home Minister in the West Bengal soil to celebrate the contribution which was paid by or which was given by the freedom fighters on the soils of the West Bengal, right? So these freedom fighters was Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, then Ras Bihari Bose, and finally, right, and finally the Khudiram Bose. So all three freedom fighters would be, right, would be their contribution would be celebrated, and this program is basically in the backdrop of the 125th birth anniversary of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. Okay, next, Helena and Dhruv Astra. So what is that Helena and what is the Dhruv Astra? So first of all, the anti-tank missile, which was indigenously built, indigenously constructed by the Defense Research and Development Organization, which is the premier Indian defense organization, which have made this anti-tank guided missile, which is known as Nag. So Nag is basically an anti-tank guided missile which is indigenously manufactured. Right now, what happens is that the Nag version of the Indian Air Force as well as Indian Armed Force. There are two versions of the Nag. Right, for the Indian Air Force version, right, a Nag missile was basically tested. Right, a Nag missile was basically tested, and it is named as the Dhruv Astra. So it is the same missile, but it will be tested on the Air Force variant. That means it is tested from the advanced light helicopter, and that is basically capable of destroying the tank on the ground. And the second is basically the missile Helena, which is also again the variant of the Nag missile, but that will be used for the Indian Army. So Helena and the Dhruvastra both are the same Nag missile, but they are the variant of the Nag missile, which will be used by the Indian Army as well as the Indian Air Force, right? That will be used, right? Basically for, for destroying the enemy tanks in the during the war. So here the Helena, which is basically the helicopter launch version of the Nag missile system, is the third generation missile system, which is basically works on the fire and forget class anti-tank guided missile. Okay, which is basically mounted on the advanced lighter helicopter. So advanced light helicopter can carry these missiles, which can be, projected from the helicopter, or which can be fired from the helicopter, and that will destroy the enemies, the tanks basically on the ground. So Helena is basically, the helicopter launch version of the Nag missile itself. Okay, now these Helena as well as the Dhruvastra have, all weather system that will basically having the operational capability that can defeat the battle tanks, right, in every situation, because that will have some sort of a conventional armor as well as the explosive armor, which will basically protect such type of tanks. Okay, the Helena missile is can engage the targets both in the direct hit mode as well as in the top attack mode. Okay, so Helena weapon system, what is the Helena weapon system? Which is developed for the Indian Army. Okay, which can be used by advanced lighter helicopters. And the IF version means, right, Indian Air Force version, which is known as the Dhruvastra, which is developed by DRDO, right, which will be having the two variants of this, the Nag missile, which will be the anti-tank missile, which will be used by the Indian Armed Force, both the Indian Army as well as by Indian Air Force, to destroy the enemy tank. But the two of these versions are basically the variant of the anti-tank missile that is known as the Nag missile, and it is indigenously manufactured. Okay, so you can see, right, you can see the missile is basically, fired from the advanced lighter helicopter, which is basically a version of the anti-tank missile, which is known as the Nag. Okay, then the INS Pralaya. What is that INS Pralaya, and why INS Pralaya is in the news? The INS Pralaya is in the news because the INS Pralaya, which is basically the Indian naval ship, it is the Indian naval ship which have been gone to the Abu Dhabi, for its participation in the two exhibitions. So in the Saudi Arabia or in the Abu Dhabi United, Arab Emirates, there will be two exhibitions that is going to be conducted, and India is actively participating in these two exhibitions, right? For the purpose of two exhibitions, the INA Pralaya, which is a naval ship, which is the Indian naval ship, has gone to UAE for participation of the two exhibitions. So what are these two exhibitions, the UAE? The first is basically called as the NAVDEX 21. NAVDEX 21. What is NAVDEX? That is Naval Defense Exhibition. The Naval Defense Exhibition that will be exhibit the naval related, some of the warships, some of the ships, some of the variants which may be used basically, for the navy related apparatus. Then the IDEX 21. The IDEX 21 is known as the International Defense Exhibition. The International Defense Exhibition would be showcasing some of the internationally, defense related, some of the, the items which may be used for the defense related purpose. And that defense exhibition is going to be scheduled from 20 to 25th of February 2021. Okay, so INS Pralaya is a second ship which is basically indigenously built under the Praval class missile vessels, which is basically commissioned in the Indian Navy on 18th of November 2002. Okay, it is commissioned in the Indian Navy in 18th of November 2002, and it has been gone to participation in this defense exhibition. Okay, this ship is basically 56-meter long, and it can displace around 560 tons of the water, right, and which is capable of moving with the speed of more than 35 knots in the water, and which is having the very advanced features of the weapons and the sensors related to related to the defense preparedness, right? And this also include the INS Pralay also include the 76.2 millimeter, the medium range gun, right? And that will also have the 30 millimeter close range gun also, or the launchers, which will have certain, the defense related features along with that INS Pralaya. Okay, the ship was indigenously built and commissioned in the Indian Navy, right, in 2002, and it was built by the Goa Shipyard Limited, right, in the backdrop of the increasing of the India's defense capabilities. All right. So here the defense exhibition is going to be conducted basically in the United Arab Emirates in the Abu Dhabi. Right. Next, the Tropex. The Tropex is basically the theater level operational readiness exercise. It is a theater level operational readiness exercise. What is that theater level operational readiness exercise, which is also known as Tropex? So here the Indian Naval Forces, right? The Indian Naval Forces, then the Tri-Services Command, and the elements of the Indian Army, Indian Air Force, and the Coast Guard, all forces will participating in an exercise in the Indian Ocean region. So there is no foreign elements, or there is no foreign country which will be participating in the Tropex 21 exercise. It is completely the Indian agencies will be participating, right, to provide the net security provider in the Indian Ocean region, as well as to emphasize the India's role in the net security provider in the basically Indian Ocean region, as well as to reduce the the footprints of the China in the Indian Ocean region. So here the Admiral Karambir Singh, who is also the chief of the Navy staff, would be presiding over, right, the Tropex 21 exercise at Kochi. So this exercise is commissioned in January 2021. Okay, and that involve all the three commands of Indian Navy, right? All three commands of Indian Navy, right? It will also include the tri-service commands at the Port Blair. It will also involve the Indian Army. It will also involve the Indian Air Force and the Coast Guard also, right? So it will basically bring certain set of coordination and synergy among the different agencies, defense agencies, specifically for the purpose of providing the net security in the Indian Ocean region. It is a biennial exercise, right, which is conducted basically once in a 2 years, right, which is the largest exercise conducted by the Indian Navy, right, which aims to validate the concept of the war fighting across the entire spectrum of the warfare, which involve almost all services related to the defense preparedness. Okay, and this exercise will basically spread over the large area, over the large geographical expanse of the Indian Ocean. Okay, and it will also cover the adjunct waters, as well as it will basically centered around the geopolitical situation, the geopolitical context relevant to the spreading of the China, or the expanding China. The China is basically building its footprint, right, in and around the Indian Ocean region. To control the China, right, the Tropex exercise is of the immense importance, all right. So you can see the ships, which is basically have been used for such exercise. Next, the drones for agriculture. The drones, that are also known as the remotely piloted aircraft system, which is also known as drone. So drone is unmanned aerial vehicles which are not basically manned, which are not manned. That means there are no pilots in the plane. So they are remotely controlled. They are remotely controlled from the ground, right? So that is what they are said, the remotely piloted aircraft system, or unmanned aerial vehicle. Unmanned, that means there is no man inside the vehicle. Okay, so here the Ministry of Civil Aviation, right, as well as the Directorate General of Civil Aviation have granted the conditional exemption, right, for the uses of the drone, specifically by the Ministry of Agriculture and the Farmers Welfare, for creating or for using of the drones for the agricultural purpose, or for making, right, certain, the digital platform, right, operationalizing of the digital sky platform, right, specifically will be used for the agricultural purpose, as well as the other allied activities, right? So the Ministry of the Civil Aviation, as well as, the Directorate General of Civil Aviation, both have given in principle approval or exemption to uses of this remotely piloted, the aircraft for the uses of the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. Okay, now this permission which allowed, right, the Ministry of Agriculture for the deployment of the remotely operated vehicles, right, which is also known as the unmanned aerial vehicles, right, for the data collection specifically in the agricultural areas of 100 districts, right? So the data will be collected with the help of the drones in the 100 districts of the country. Okay, and that will basically also collect the data related to the gram panchayat level, as well as it will also collect the data related to the Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana also, right, to provide the financial benefits to the farmers. Okay, now the exemption is valid, right? There is certain validity of the exemption. That the exemption is valid from the 1 year from the date of the permission letter, okay, until the operationalization of the digital sky platform, right? So whichever is earlier, that means it is permitted only for the 1 year from the date of permission, or the operationalization of the digital sky platform, whichever is earlier. So it is valid only up to that period of the time, right? And if the Ministry of Environment and the Farmers Welfare basically, have basically diluted certain restrictions, right, or have violated certain conditions which have been imposed by the Directorate General of Civil Aviation, then such exemption will be void, and the ministry will not be permitted to use of the drones in the future also. All right, so in the case of violation of any of the condition, the exemptions which were given by the Ministry of Civil Aviation as well as the Directorate General of Civil Aviation will be void, and such action may be initiated against, such agencies which violated such conditions. All right, so you can see the drone which is basically facilitating, right, the capturing of the data related to the agriculture and its operations. All right, so that's all for the today. All right, and we will meet again tomorrow for our current affairs. All right, so thank you very much those who attended the class. Thank you very much.